Back on the Boulevard Thursday, March 27th, as always, here to prove to you there is no such thing as football season. We're presented by the Believe Network tonight alongside TPG. I'm Matty Fresh. And finally, the United Football League has come back into our lives with the mic'd up broadcasts, the super challenges, the 3-point conversions. We love this league where you're never out of a game as long as you got a 4th and 12 in your back pocket. And even the return of our beloved XFL-style kickoffs this year, along with all our cities, the Beer Snake back in D.C., 40,000 strong back in the Dome in St. Louis, where despite some drama, KICKOFF is still the law. But ultimately somewhere down south in a little town called Birmingham, Skip Holtz sits alone on his throne in Stallion Land, and now he's playing for that pinky ring. We got 43 games over the next 10 weeks, actually 10 games on Friday nights. And joining me through it all, the St. Louis scumbag, TPG. Welcome back, my friend.
How's it going, Matt? Thanks for having me back. It's been a long off season, so I'm super pumped to get this season kicked off. But it's also MLB opening day, and coincidentally, it's opening day for us. But I'd like to open up season 3 with a quote that some OG Springball Boulevard listeners will know, and it goes a little something like this. Now we're taking a shot up in the tailgate lot with stadium view. What a great spot. Damn, I've been waiting all week, counting down the days till I'm back in my seat. And hey, and I've been waiting to get back in this seat, Matt, and talk with one of the brightest minds in spring football, Matty Fresh.
What a prophecy there. Who said that quote, by the way? Listen, I feel bad now because here I was calling you a scumbag, and you're singing my praises already, TPG.
You spoke too soon. I don't know what to tell you.
I got to thank you for that one.
Next time you should let me open the show.
Listen, it's going to be great to have you, man. We got the rivalry going, St. Louis and D.C. You know, ever since the day we met, this is something that we've been on opposite sides of the aisle. And, boy, things are going to get interesting in this rivalry in 2025. Unfortunately, neither of our teams are the favorite heading into this thing. But we got to look at what the books are saying about who's going to challenge those Birmingham Stallions. I mean, honestly, at this point, I was waiting for the shops to list a Birmingham against the field bet. I think I'd back the field. I'll gladly donate money to root against Skip Holtz and this team at this point. I honestly don't even care if I lose. I'm tired of them popping bottles. Just like Mahomes in Kansas City went down, everybody was happy. I feel like a new champ needs to be crowned in the UFL. Thoughts on that?
Well, obviously, Stallions are the favorite to start the year off. How can you dismiss 3 straight championships? So there's no surprise that they're favorites. But yeah, I think there are some good values on the board with these preseason odds.
Yeah, let's take a look at that board. Preseason championship odds via DraftKings. Birmingham, the resounding favorites at plus 185. St. Louis on top of the XFL side. TPG likes to see that at plus 320. San Antonio at 6-1, followed by DC and Michigan plus 650. Arlington at 10-1, and the long shots Memphis 22-1, and the Necks of Houston at 25-1. TPG, what's your best value for bettors here?
Obviously, I think St. Louis is going to win it all, but I'm not too crazy about the value that they're posted at. But I think the right answer lies somewhere in the middle. San Antonio at plus 600 and Michigan Panthers at plus 650. I'm really high on these quarterbacks coming into this year. Kellen Mond, Bryce Perkins. I think both of them could be UFL or MVP candidates when it's all said and done.
Yeah, and I'll go the other way. For me, it's DC at plus 650. We're going to sound real biased here, but listen, I know it sounds delusional, especially after the recent coaching news. If you haven't heard, Reggie Barlow pieced out 6 days before the season, off to Tennessee State University for a Division I coaching gig. A lot of people don't realize it's D1, but it is. 2 things, really, I have to say about Reggie here. First of all, congratulations to him. He's been a friend of the show. Had him on several times. He's been great in press conferences, XFL North Champs in 2023, and a man of the people. Brought the quote to us, "You like football? Well, we love football, Coach, and we love to see you chasing your dreams, heading to Nashville for Tennessee State. We know that those FCS jobs are a pipeline to major FBS college football jobs. There's a million examples of that over the years, and, I wish him the best. Second off, I need every single one of you to promise me pinky promise me, pinky's up, TPG, that you will stick with the UFL until the coaching jobs in this league are better than the coaching jobs in the FCS. It's crazy that we're not at that level yet, but when you look at the grand scheme of things and guys who are trying to get to the top of college football jobs or maybe even the NFL, that's the right move for Reggie Barlow to make. And I can't debate that. We will one day, I promise you, TPG, get there. Thoughts on right now the situation between having guys like Bob Stoops and Wade Phillips in the UFL. Obviously, those guys don't want to recruit, and that's why they're not taking college jobs. Can we ever get to that point, though, where it's a better job in the UFL than it is in lower-level college football?
Yeah, I definitely hope so. I think, as this league gets more years under its belt, some pro coaches or some even college coaches, kind of like how Skip Holtz gravitated from college football to the UFL, these jobs are going to be more sought after once this league gets more seasons under its belt.
So Shannon Harris gets the call up as interim head coach. He coached quarterbacks the last 3 years. Barlow, think about Barlow. He does plan on bringing his whole staff along with him to TSU. So it looks like as of the current moment, he's going to wait to move them to Nashville until after the UFL season, which is ideal, right? Long story short, the coaching search begins for 2026, and it'll be an entirely new staff in DC. So the reason I'm not entirely worked up about this news in the short term is because Fred Keiss calls the offense, Greg Williams calls the defense, and we know Reggie Barlow was just there for game management, right? Fourth downs, you're going to go for 1, 2, 3, you're going to call a timeout, and of course he was a great leader, but I think Shannon Harris can handle all those type of duties. It might take him a few weeks to get comfortable, but that's why I don't think DC loses much value here in the future market. I'll take him at plus 650. Abram Smith, best tailback in the league. Jordan Ta'amu, been in this current offense longer than any UFL quarterback. Plus they rebuilt the secondary, so book it. I'm taking plus 650. Let's touch on St. Louis, plus 320 a little bit, because you were talking about that. Third straight year for me. The Battlehawks coming overrated, TPG. What's going on here?
Matt, I don't think they're overrated at all. If you look at the schedule and how it plays out, they already have 6 home games due to the Final Four being in San Antonio. And if they could capture that number 1 seed in the XFL conference, they have the possibility to host 8 home games this year with that championship game rumored to be in St. Louis, which, is super exciting to me because, in my opinion, there's no better stadium in the UFL than the Eddie Jones Dome.
I can't argue with that, honestly. I won't go as far as what you say, that Audi Field's a used car sales lot. That's blasphemous and disrespectful, but I'll give you that. You got the best stadium. They've not made a championship game appearance yet. Don't forget that. However, in their defense, I think baked into the plus 320 odds is the fact that 50 times the people are going to bet that number blindly, like you, right? St. Louis has 50 times the fans. They have 50 times the fans as anybody else in the UFL. So the books kind of have to make them high. I don't know what I'm missing here. You lost the most talented quarterback in spring football history. Your offensive coordinator, I think, was maybe having some nightmares about calling plays for Manny Wilkins. He got the hell out of there. Went to the NFL. Now you're one-dimensional. How is this offense going to move the ball? I don't see it.
Well, obviously, we got a great running back coming back, all UFL running back. And you know what? When we get in the preview, I'll break down this team a little bit more. I'm not going to blow my wad so early.
Yeah. While we're on this, I do want to refresh everyone's memory for a second because, recency bias has taken over our society. Why is AJ McCarron no longer in the UFL? Which, by the way, absolutely sucks in every single way for St. Louis fans and for the league. And we had the privilege of having AJ on the show several times. Always appreciated his openness and willingness to pick the little guy and this stupid little podcast as his platform, to talk about his feelings and share some of this news and thoughts. But anyway, he was banged up last year, badly banged up, really all season. I'm talking broken ribs, severe high ankle sprain, you name it. He played through it all to get them to the playoffs, to the point where he could barely walk off that field in the Dome by the end. whatever, right? Nobody cares, play better, blah, blah, blah. I get it. And AJ gets it too. The point is, even after all that, he still wanted to come back at age 34 and play this year. And he knew it was coming to an end with the Battlehawks, right? He told that whole story publicly back in November, saying about how the attitudes and the tones in the locker room changed up real quick throughout last season. And then eventually Anthony Beck calls and breaks up with him. Basically says, hey, it's not you, it's me. That's basically what he gave him. Said, we're going to let you go. It's not performance-based. Long story short, of course they try to trade him. He says, kick rocks. If I'm coming back, I get to decide where I'm coming back. Battlehawks get pissed off about that. They say, all right, we're going to put out a half-assed social post here, releasing him. And in that, the verbiage seems like he's going to retire. Couldn't be farther from the truth. They don't ask AJ for his statement. They don't let him give a quote. Nothing. They move on. They cut ties. That's that. If I'm AJ, I'm fired up about that too. So he comes on a podcast and says, I'm coming back to play him twice a year. And listen, I tried, DC fans. I did everything I could to bring him to the district. I have the receipts to prove it. Don't yell at me. It just didn't work out. He ultimately never found a fit. Last thing I'll say about this. Everyone better not take AJ McCarron for granted. And I'm not talking about just fans. I'm talking about players in this league, coaches in this league, and especially the executives in this league. One specifically who claimed St. Louis had the best offseason of any UFL team. That's a head scratcher. How do you have the best offseason of any UFL team when you lose your best player? I have no idea. You think about the players that could be grateful for him. AJ came out prior to last season, and you know TPG stood up for the players on this show. Said they weren't compensated fairly. Said salary was too low to cover rent. He said health insurance wasn't year-round. And then he actually held the players' union accountable for taking that bad deal. But he played anyway. Fast forward a year later, what happened? All 24 quarterbacks sit out of minicamp because of that same bad deal that they were being offered last year. Players Union goes ahead, files charges against the league. They say the league threatened to cut us if we didn't show up for media day. So now they're standing up for themselves. The same way AJ did by himself last year when nobody wanted to. That's called leading by example. And it's without shadow of a doubt, the Battlehawks organization, the UFL as a whole, takes a massive step back without AJ McCarron. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Any last words on McCarron, TPG?
Obviously, it sucks to lose a guy like AJ McCarron. He was the face of the franchise, and, I think a big part of Battlehawks fans showing out is because he was their quarterback. Obviously, powers beyond think that, maybe his best days are behind him. So we bring in two new guys, and we'll see if that decision works out for us as the season plays out.
Yeah, back to those odds. We gave our thoughts a little bit on St. Louis, a little bit on DC. The other interesting one to me is Memphis at 22-1. I think this was like 17-1 last week. Then Showboat's head coach, Ken Wisenhunt, steps down for personal reasons. All I got to say is when your brand new head coach, who also calls the plays and installed this offense, steps down like a couple days before the season, and then the sports books still think you're more likely to win a UFL championship than the Houston Roughnecks. Houston, we have a problem. 25-1 for the Necks on DraftKings. TPG, you love your boats, but how do they stay afloat without the captain here?
Obviously not an ideal situation for Memphis with less than a week out for the season, head coach leaving, and I'm pretty sure that they only have two coaches on the offensive staff. So I do believe this Memphis team is going to get things turned around this year, have a better season than last, but I think there's going to be some growing pains early.
Yeah, and I would have to agree with that. We don't have confirmation yet exactly on where the UFL championship game would be. We expect it to be in the Dome again based on some rumors, but that doesn't mean we can't predict our playoff, right? And our title game. I'm going to lead us off here. XFL conference, I think San Antonio gets back to the playoffs. Solid defense over there, some big additions. Pressure's on for our boy, AJ Smith. Shutout in the title game. We'll see what he comes up with. Kellen Mond taking the controls there in the Alamo Dome. I predict they will host none other than the DC Defenders in that XFL championship game in the Alamo Dome. I think Abram Smith gets right back to 2023 form. DC patched the pass defense up. A couple stud defensive backs, pass rush strong as always. USFL side for me is chalk. Michigan, Birmingham, again. Might as well just play that game right now. We said it last year. Memphis and Houston might improve a little bit, but not enough to make the playoffs. For Birmingham, I do think the combination of losing the league MVP and all your pass rushers to the NFL will be the difference. Michigan finally gets over the hump with an MVP-type season from Bryce Perkins if he could stay healthy. And my defenders over Michigan in the title. Shields up, baby. Let's cash it plus 650. TPG, who you got in the playoffs?
Well, I agree with you. 3 out of 4 of these teams, but I want the rematch. I want the rematch. I want Battlehawks Brahmas in that XFL championship game, and because that championship game left just a really bad taste in my mouth. I want revenge.
Worst.
I want revenge over these guys. And I'm on the same page with you in the USFL. Birmingham and Michigan. I think both teams will get back there, and I think this is Michigan's year that they finally get over that hump.
So we agree about something, huh? I know that's going to be the trendy pick, right? The Panthers.
We're chalk. I know that.
We don't want to see the dynasty. Nobody likes the dynasty outside of Birmingham fans. We don't need to see that. We saw it in the NFL for years. The Eagles stopped the three-peat. Now we're going to see it here in the UFL as well. A couple rule changes to cover quick. Our precious XFL kickoff back like it never left after a very successful first-year run in the NFL. The brainchild of Sam Schwartzstein lives on. I love it, TPG. You might not agree.
You know, when the XFL introduced it in 2020, I was a big fan because it was something new, something we haven't seen before. Obviously, the NFL adopts it this past year. And I think, you just saw like a lot of touchbacks. Teams didn't really care that they were getting the ball at the 30. They were just booting it out of the back of the end zone. I was a massive fan of the USFL kickoff, kicking off from your own 20, because you almost always had a return. And, at the end of the day, I'm a traditionalist. I like my coffee black and my tobacco straight.
I mean, how can you not love this kickoff? I mean, even the NFL.
Not a big fan of it,
Matt. Why have a kickoff? We can get into this some other time. This is crazy. I love that kickoff. Shout out to Sam Schwartzstein, who was thrilled to see that thing back. And they gave us an extra super challenge, right? So you get to holster a second red flag in the back pocket if you hit the first. Thoughts on that?
I'm a little bit more indifferent about this one than the kickoff. But I also kind of like the strategy of just having one super challenge, how coaches were able to utilize it during games. Now that if they get the first one right, they're going to have a second chance. I could see a lot of coaches maybe challenging something in the first half, just so if they get that right, they're going to have something in their back pocket for the second half.
Or maybe some coaches like Curtis Johnson won't use it at all.
Probably not.
Forget he has it. So those are our rule changes, our championship odds, our playoff picks. Now our favorite time of the show. We do it every year. TPG going to join us this time around. It's our beloved Beer Snake Tutorial 2025. And it's really just 3 steps, folks. Very simple. Step 1, acquire your plastic pint. You got your plastic pint there.
Not plastic. I got glass.
All right.
I don't live in a frat house like you, Matt. I'm sorry.
This is what they teach you in St. Louis. We don't bring glass to Audi Field. Anyway, step 2, consume your plastic pint.
Ooh.
And here it comes.
Sorry.
Here it comes. Ooh. That might be a record. Got a little on the shirt.
Little spillage.
Hey, I'm getting older. All right, I'm almost 30. Anyway, I almost missed step 3. Of course, step 3. We see it in camera there. Stack your plastic pint. As so. And congratulations. You just fed the beer snake. We'll see you in Audi Field. Let's get into the preview. How about our first preview of the year, right? Our game of the week. Birmingham. 7-point favorites at DC on the road. Wow. Total at 41. Actually, the weekend's highest. Like, how is this the weekend's highest total? We'll get into that later. Forecast for Sunday at 3 o'clock, 72 and overcast in our nation's capital. Wind's actually going to gust up to 30 miles an hour. Last year, Stallions won the lone meeting, 20-18. I was there in Birmingham. It was a bogus weather delay, a botched punt. It was just a mess. Skip Holtz's first trip to Audi Field this season. Hope it's a bad one. And he's going to begin his tour for 4. How about that? Call me up, Stallions Marketing. Print that on a t-shirt. I already trademarked it, so good luck. Let's talk about the DC offense against the Stallion D. I'd mentioned earlier, Jordan Ta'amu, right? More continuity in this offense than I think anybody, at least quarterbacks in the UFL. Pairing up with Fred Keiss for year 3 in the system. Now we know Jordan had a bit of a sophomore slump, right? He won Offensive Player of the Year in 2023. But I think he's hungry. And I think he's going to elevate his play in 2025. He did throw the 9 picks last year. Not a good look. But I think he had to force the ball a lot. No semblance of a run game for this team last year. In fact, I think Jordan himself was the most efficient ball carrier for DC last season. That can't happen, and it won't happen again. Because the number 1 pick in the XFL draft is back in D.C., a year removed from his ACL tear, Abram Smith. If you watch the XFL, this man needs no introduction. Led the league in yards per carry, and touchdowns. And with some wins in the forecast, I'm thinking 20, 25 carries here on Sunday. I'm still a little concerned about the line. They did not run block at all last year. I know they downgrade a little bit. They lose their anchor. Right guard Liam Fornadell end up with the Pats. He played every snap the last 2 seasons. So center Mike Maietti, Jersey Mike, going to become the leader here. His 3rd year snapping the ball for JT, so that's good at least. But TPG, when you're looking at how to attack Birmingham's defense, it's tough, right? Top rush defense in the league last season. I think they get 4 of their 5 front 7 back, including that absolute madman in the middle. Carlos Davis might be the scariest spring football player I've ever seen. Just a quarterback nightmare. Now, I could see Abram Smith getting 100 here just based on volume of carries. That doesn't necessarily mean DC scores a bunch of points. I mean, if you want a weakness on the Stallions D, I guess I could say the secondary. We know it's a solid safety group. Kenny Robinson, AJ Thomas, but the corners are a little question mark, right? I mean, a bunch of new faces. I don't know if DC's offensive tackles can hold up against this pass rush. I mean, you're talking 3 young, fresh new guys. They're all 24, 25-year-old, 3rd-round NFL guys. They just reloaded up front. I think Zach Potter, who's now at Sacramento State, the former Whiz Kid GM, he'd be proud to watch the Stallions this year and see the job they did to reload. Because a lot of his guys ended up in the league. So if Jordan Ta'amu can get the ball out, Ty Scott and Chris Rowland, right, those will be the guys. Kelvin Harmon will be missed a lot. He was DC's best wideout last year now with the Cowboys. So someone has to step up in this room. I thought it'd be Lynn Bowden. Guess not. He got cut. Not sure of the story there. I'm sure we'll get it throughout the season. You know, maybe he wasn't into it. But, yeah, no Lynn Bowden. So Scott and Rowland getting a ton of targets. They don't really have a great pass-catching option at tight end. Alex Ellis was automatic last 2 years in the red zone. He's gone now. So I hate to say it, advantage Birmingham defense here. I think they hold DC under 20. I don't know why. Again, this total 41, why it's the highest of the weekend, I have no idea. I think this is an 18-15 type of deal. TPG, your thoughts?
I think it's hard to ignore the Stallions' record since 2022. 32-4, best record in spring football, and they're coming back with the tried and true offense, Skip Holtz's baby. You know, if the corner bails, you're throwing the hitch. If the linebacker sits, you're throwing the out. So taking a look at this quarterback room, I think it's one of the best quarterback rooms in the league, and I don't think it really matters who starts. Either it's Matt Corral, Alex Magoo, Case Cookus. Either one of these guys is going to thrive because this offense is so quarterback friendly. If I'm going to give an edge right now, I'm going to say Matt Corral. You know, he came in the playoffs last year and basically saved the Stallions season. They don't have that championship blowout game if Corral doesn't come in and throws a couple nice dots and gets that team in the end zone. So I know a lot of people are high on Magoo, but you know, I think Corral's the dude. Looking at the running backs, you know, they got Ricky Person Jr., CJ Marable back. A great backfield, averaged 5.1 yards a rush. Obviously, that number's a little inflated because of no Adrian Martinez, but this offensive line is good. You return the man in the middle, Cole the Gut Schneider, so he's going to be able to help out in the run game and call out where certain guys should be sliding to. And then looking at the receiver room, you got guys returning like Deion Kane, Marlon Williams, Amari Rogers, and Matt, your boy, Jay Sternberger. So a lot of the offensive weapons for this team are back this year. And they're going up against a first-time head coach. So obviously he's been with the Defenders for a while. He's been with Reggie Barlow's staff since 2021 at Virginia State. But, you know, going up against the Stallions, that's the Goliath. So, and then on the flip side, they're going up against Greg Williams' defense, who basically sucked last year. Gave up over 300 yards per game each week. Yeah. And they weren't very great. You know, they bring back some key pieces like Malik Fisher, Devin Bellamy, and all UFL corner DeAndre Baker. But I'm not sure if this team has done enough this offseason to address those defensive woes from last year. There's a reason, Matt, why this is the biggest spread of the week. So give me the ponies to gallop all over that beer snake.
Listen, you and everybody else is underappreciating Adrian Martinez. You know that, right? They downgraded at quarterback. That man averaged a first down every touch. Every touch. 9.8 a carry. Over 10 yards of pass completion. What's his name? Ripper Magoo? I don't know. I didn't watch the USFL.
Ripper Magoo?
To know. Ripper Magoo. Let's call him Ripper Magoo. I hope they start him. Please start Ripper Magoo because leave Matt Corral on the bench, please. I'd like a Defenders win. Let the fans storm the field. Let's get the upset.
You're crazy, man.
Yeah. Let me remind you here. Every Birmingham preview that we're going to do this year is going to sound really bad for their opponent. And you'll have me here trying to spin it the other way. It doesn't mean this team's going 10-0. They will trip up somewhere, but on paper, yeah, they have the advantage. Offense, defense, coaching by a mile. The only holes I could poke in them is they lost their quarterback, and maybe everybody has more experience against them now. Just like the Chiefs were beatable in the big leagues, the Stallions are beatable here. So let's go. Shields up, snakes up, lemons up, Greg Williams back up from the dead. My DraftKings balance heading up. DC upset beats the ponies. Let's do it. You have no comment, so I'm going to get into our next one.
No, I'm kind of speechless. Like I said, there's a reason why this is the biggest spread, Matt. There's a reason why.
That's why they play the games.
That is true.
Next up, some Friday night flavor. We get some Friday night lights in H-Town. Roughnecks playing host to the Battlehawks. Pretty busy sports weekend there in Houston. PGA Tour there with the Houston Open. Astros in town, I believe. So pretty busy, but heading on out to the rig anyway. St. Louis 6-point road favorite here. Total 37.5. Forecast for Friday at 7 o'clock Central. 71 and rainy at the rig. Last year, TPG and I were actually both on hand. Battlehawks won the lone meeting 22-8 in the Dome. And from what I remember, Houston defense held up. Like, they were pretty solid that day. So I got to ask you, how do they match up with this new look Battlehawks offense?
Well, taking a look first at this Houston defense. Well, first of all, before we get into the defense, Houston's returning their entire coaching staff, which, is a head scratcher to begin with. They're the worst offense, and when you look at the numbers, their defense wasn't really as good as you think. But they did bring in a new general manager, Will Lewis. He was the former GM of the San Antonio Brahmas. But as me and you remember, Matt, that team lacked a ton of talent. But looking at this defense, on paper, it's a bunch of nobodies. You lose a lot of your key players from a year ago, guys like Reuben Foster, Adam Rodriguez, and Chris Odom cut in the offseason. I don't know if that's a CJ Johnson decision. I don't know if that's a Will Lewis decision. But I'm not too confident about this team. But the one guy they do have on defense is safety Markel Roby. Played in all 10 games last year, 58 tackles, led the team in tackles actually, which if one of your defensive backs is leading your team in tackles, then you have a bunch of problems with your front seven. Let alone, and this guy also had 3 picks. So, and a forced fumble, mind you. So this guy is by far one of their best defensive players on the team. And whoever's at quarterback for St. Louis, either it's Manny Wilkins or Max Duggan, you got to know where this guy's on the field because he could create fits for you. Flipping over to the offensive side of the ball, like I said, we're going to probably get a split between Manny Wilkins and Max Duggan. You know, Manny Wilkins, that first game he came in against DC last year, he looked pretty good, was serviceable in his spot start, but I always think back to that game against Arlington where he throws those 3 second-half interceptions and basically just, it was a close game up until then, and we basically just gave the Renegades the game right there. But, you know, this offense returns a lot. They return all UFL running back, Jacob Sailors. We have every single starting offensive lineman was on the team last year. That's the one praise you could say about Anthony Beck, is that he's really invested in this offensive line, and hopefully this continuity shows when they ground and pound the ball. Also, you got guys coming in like Hakeem Butler, Ja'Cour Pearson as your pass catchers, and one of the guys that I'm really excited to see is Denzel Mims, stand out with the Jets, over 600 yards receiving in the NFL. So I'm excited to see what this guy's going to be able to do. And, yeah, you know, forecast is calling for rain, Matt. So I think, you know, my keys to success on Saturday night is going to be run the damn ball on offense and swarm to the ball on defense. 4 quarters of fuck you football. A little Notre Dame football reference for you, Matty Fresh.
Listen, this guy doesn't even know when his team's playing. The game's on Friday night there, bucko.
Did I not say that?
He said Saturday.
Did I say Saturday night? Ah, damn.
TPG's drunk off that beer snake beer already.
That one beer got me, I guess.
This is what it comes down to. Much like Birmingham, this is a downgrade at quarterback, and it's a much larger downgrade. So St. Louis is going to be lost in the passing game. Yes, Jacob Sailors is solid. But what happens when teams stack the box, right? Was Jacob Sailors good on any team, or was he good because teams had the game plan defensively for AJ? That set up the run for Sailors, right? So I don't know, man. I'm pretty low on this Battlehawks offense, at least until Duggan or even Cordero get some reps in this system and learn how to adjust in it. I don't think Manny Wilkins is your long-term answer here. I don't see how it could be. I mean, handy Manny, right? We'll see what Manny Wilkins on Friday night. I do want to flip to the Houston offense. The people are asking, TPG, what can Brown do for Hugh? Well, he could be the second coming to PJ Walker. I like his chances. Good quarterback on a bad team, right? We can agree with that. And we've seen that before. Luis Perez with the Vipers. Quentin Dormady with Orlando. It usually doesn't make enough of a difference to matter and like be able to win games, but maybe Brown could change that. Maybe he's enough of a difference maker. I mean, he was 4 years as a power conference starter, Boston College and Oregon, tore it up with Baltimore in the preseason. Some running ability here. I wouldn't call him a scrambler. Maybe dual threat is fair. He runs a 4.7 40. So take from that what you will. But when the pocket breaks down, we know he's going to be able to get out and make some plays, and I think it's going to break down, right? We know that. He has some speedsters out wide. You rave all the time about the Houston receivers. Justin Hall back with some unfinished business. Snubbed, by the way, from all UFL last year. What was that? Like, I don't think people understood how hard it is to lead the league in receptions and be third in yards when you got a revolving door of absolutely mid quarterbacks. Like, that man deserved all UFL. He might be the best slot in the UFL. I actually think he is. The problem here is only Memphis gave up more sacks than Houston last year. And I get it. They have a couple additions up front. But Brown is going to be running for his life. And speaking of running, the backs here don't excite me. I mean, you got Lorenzo Lingard, second-year pro out of Akron. Kirk Merritt is supposed to get some touches. He's more of the scat back, receiving threat. He was hurt last season. I don't see either of them producing much. This is a two-man game for me on offense. It's Anthony Brown and Justin Hall. And you'll get the occasional Kiki Chisholm, right, with some kind of acrobatic deep ball catch. But it's not enough for me to consistently move the ball, especially against a St. Louis defense, right? They will suffocate you. They'll suffocate your passing game. They got even better. 2 huge additions back from 2023. You remember these guys, TPG. How about Lucas Dennis and Nate Metters? They were both NFL last year, and they're not even starting. They're backup safeties. So the front 7 is stout. Mike Rose, Willie Harvey, unquestionably best linebacking duo in this league. Pete is back to terrorize quarterbacks. Only potential weakness I see is the run defense. I mean, a couple of questions on the interior, but Houston can't run the ball. So the edge goes to St. Louis here. And I'll say it. Remember this. Nobody, absolutely nobody saw Adrian Martinez coming as MVP. Is that Anthony Brown in 2025? He has that type of potential. He just doesn't have the help. He doesn't have the coaching. He doesn't have the supporting cast. So I'll side with you, TPG, and the rest of your Battlehawk boys. But as the great Lee Corso would say, closer than the experts think. I got caught in this week 1 trap last season with St. Louis. Anthony Beck loses to Michigan as a 6-point road favorite. I'm not doing it again. This could be 16-9. I actually love the under here, TPG. What do you think about the under here possibly?
You know, obviously, with rain in the forecast and the Battlehawks bringing back the whole offensive line, running back Jacob Sailors, Houston's inability to put up points, as we saw last year, same OC. Yeah, I think it's going to be a ground and pound type of game. Little defensive battle, play some field position. So yeah, I would get down with that for sure.
Rolling with your Hawks as you will every time.
Hawks by 2 scores or more.
Ooh, Hawks to cover. All right, we'll see. Let's move on to Saturday. A standalone game, the I-35 rivalry. Brahmas up 3-1 in this series with the Renegades since its inception in XFL 2023. But Wade Phillips, 4-1 against old Big Game Bob down there in Arlington. Although, thinking about that, Stoops, I think, won the only one that mattered, right? XFL South Championship game back in 2023. So San Antonio here, 3-point road favorite. Starting to see a theme, by the way, with all these road favorites. What's up with that? Although I will say this home field is the one that matters the least because Wade Phillips and his boys have been posted up at HQ for damn near a month now. So total here, 37. Wow, low. Forecast for Saturday at 3 o'clock Central, 84 with up to 25-mile-an-hour wind gusts in Choctaw Stadium. It's a fitting day to talk about the King of Spring, Luis Perez. TPG was all fired up to attend the exclusive pre-launch of his book. Sorry you didn't get to make that there, buddy. You had a show to record. But
I'm still gonna buy it though. Still buying it.
And what's it called? Spring King, right?
I think that's the title, Spring King.
I'll tell you this: if he can write a book like he can read a defense, that thing's going straight to bestseller. This is a successful guy. He came out of nowhere, and what he did on a bad team last year is outstanding. I mean, he led every individual QB stat, number 2 total offense in the UFL, and all the skill guys are back. Every single one of them. Sal Cannella at tight end. He's hungry, by the way, snubbed for all UFL. And the receiving core, Vaughns, Burnett, Peyton, even Davion Smith at running back is back at, 38 years old. 110 carries last year, led the league. He's still a workhorse, TVG. And we'll see with the O-line, though. They do lose 3 starters. Bobby Evans was the anchor at left tackle. He's gone. But this is an offense under Chuck Long going into year 3, and pretty much all these core guys were there for that XFL title run. So what a great matchup, right, with this Brahmas defense. I'll say it. Number 1 offense in Arlington, number 1 defense in San Antonio. At least coming into the season. That's where I'd put them. Arlington, 25 points a game last year, still went 3-7. Obviously not an offense problem. So what are the Brahmas going to show them defensively? I think they take away the run. And we raved about this front 7 all last year. They're stacked in San Antonio. Beckett and Williams lead them at linebacker. Probably the 2 highest football IQ guys in the entire UFL. And you think about that interior D line. Oh, man, that's going to handle the Renegades front. In the pass game, I think Perez could maybe push it downfield here. That Texas wind is going to be whipping around. They've been talking about it in camp, how it's been very gusty. I would feel pretty good about this over at 37 because I think the Renegades can give you 20 or more here. But think about it. They scored 20 against everybody last year except San Antonio. So they say life's too short to bet the under. Proceed with caution in this one. In conclusion, I give San Antonio's defense a slight edge. I think they hold Arlington to maybe 60 yards on the ground. There's going to be an interception from one of these stud defensive backs. How about Greedy Williams at corner for the Brahmas? First team All SEC. Yeah, like started 12 games as a rookie in Cleveland. Like, I think it's Brad Wing. He's recruiting all these former LSU stars. He got Kirkland, Greedy Williams. I mean, Greedy Williams, that's a big-time name, TPG, in this league. And I really do think that San Antonio's defense has enough here to be able to stop the run, and we'll see with the pass. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
I know you deemed the DC Birmingham game of the week, but in my opinion, I think this is the game of the week. The Texas Throwdown, the I-35 rivalry. I think it's going to have a great showing from both fan bases, and it features the best quarterback matchup of the weekend. So getting into the San Antonio offense, in my opinion, I think AJ Smith's done a great job of maximizing the short amount of time they have the preseason camp to getting the most out of his offensive production in week one. Look back at 2023, puts up 33 points against the Guardians in week one, and last season puts up 27 points puts up 27 against Matt's defenders. This offense introduces Kellen Mond, right? A guy that I'm super excited to see, has a lot of NFL experience. So I can't wait to see what he does in this quarterback-friendly offense. I mean, AJ Smith made Chase Garbers look like a stud last year. So, what do you think Mond's going to look like? He's gonna ball out. Obviously, it's helpful that they're bringing back Thunder and Lightning, Anthony McFarland and John Lovett. Hopefully, AJ Smith doesn't completely neglect the run game, which I don't think he will. I think he understands that he's got a lot of good offensive linemen coming back. He saw that the run worked for him last year, so hopefully he leans heavily on this run because when this team's firing, running the ball, nobody can stop these two guys. To help out Mon on the offensive side of the ball, you also got Jontre Kirkland, who in my opinion is one of the best receivers in the league. Speedy Stevenson's coming back, and Justin Smith. All three guys made some big-time plays last year. But one of the guys I'm most excited to see in this offense is Greg Ward, the former college quarterback out of Houston. He's got this dual-threat skill. He's playing receiver now, but since he has that background playing quarterback, I could see maybe AJ bringing him in for some PAT attempts, similar to how he did with Cole McDonald in XFL 2023. So super excited to see what this San Antonio offense is going to do, and I think they're going to explode onto the scene week one. On the flip side, you got this Renegades defense who was like the massive problem. Yeah, the Renegades. I mean, they were a massive problem last year. Taking a look at just some game results, they lost 3 games by a total of 5 points. Just the defensive inability to get off the field and get stopped.
Lost to Houston.
You got a 3-point loss against St. Louis. You got a 1-point loss against DC, which, that game was crazy, Matt. I know me and you were both locked in watching that. And then the Michigan game, they were leading the whole time. You give up a bad kickoff return at the end. Michigan gets in field goal range. Jake Bates sends them home. So you do have some key pieces coming back on this defense. Guys like Tuzar Skipper, Will Clark, Donald Payne, and recently signed Chris Odom, which I'm super excited to see what he could do on this team. But like I alluded to earlier, you're going up against a lot of firepower, so you're going to have a lot of these answers for what San Antonio is going to do on offense, especially with a young, innovative offensive coordinator like AJ Smith. Also, I think Stoops, he just looks checked out from times. I'm not super confident. I'm not super confident in his ability. I feel like he just, he sticks around because he enjoys coaching, and the XFL or the UFL schedule isn't too rigorous, only 12 weeks at most with a 3-week training camp. So it's a good way for him to stay in coaching. But I'm just not too confident in him. Little stat for you, Matt, as
Small
well.
rebuttal there. Small rebuttal.
Okay.
He did say that he got invited to play at Augusta National, and he turned it down to coach in the UFL.
That is true.
I mean, that's something not many men would do, right?
But he's also made some other comments like that as well.
Yeah.
Little quick stat for you. Luis Perez, 1-4 as a Week 1 starter. His only win in Week 1 dating back to 2019 with the Birmingham Iron. So, I know Brahmas fans, they like to say Choctaw Stadium looks like a prison. So, we're gonna take this one at the slammer. I'm going horns forward. I'm high on this team, like I said at the beginning. So let's see what they got.
And how can we forget to mention Destroying back at kicker with his 6 million subscribers. Guy didn't even get the chance to attempt a field goal before he broke his neck last year. I'm all in. This is a redemption story. I'm very intrigued. Any thoughts? Any thoughts on Destroying here?
Yeah, I'm super pumped to see what this guy can do. I hope he gets his opportunity Week 1 and maybe nail a game winner. I don't know if you caught
that.
This,
should
Matt.
be a DraftKings prop right there.
It really should be.
Will he make his first field goal attempt? I'll take yes.
Or destroying over 1.5 field goals. I think that would be a great bet for people.
You would get so many people to bet. Like,
yes, absolutely.
They have to do things like this, right?
I don't know if you caught this real quick. But Destroying, he has a podcast, Kicking It with D. Him and Brad Wing, they go back and forth. I've been listening to it recently because they've been breaking down what's going on in UFL training camp, and they had Rex. I'm blanking on his last name. He's now with the Cleveland
long
Browns.
snapper.
Yes,
right?
yes, the long snapper. And they were talking about like their favorite UFL moments. And Brad said that one of his favorite UFL moments was that after the San Antonio Arlington game in Arlington, that defensive backs from the Brahmas got into the fight with offensive linemen from the Renegades, and it was the DBs that kicked their ass. That's probably one of the most embarrassing things ever. Guys that outweigh you by 100, 150 pounds, and you're beating the shit out of them. Like,
listen,
there's a reason.
Bryce Thompson was there
for
reason. San Antonio, and he's on DC now. Listen, there is no better marriage than Bryce Thompson, who, by the way, saw him come out of Audi Field after the Dragons lost the 2023 XFL North title, and he was about to climb up in the crowd and fight some people. Last season, we saw him mix it up with Sternberger and get thrown out of the game. That's a Greg Williams guy. Like, Greg Williams must love having Bryce Thompson on his side, but that doesn't surprise me. Give me the Brahmas here too. Let's keep the golden sombrero in San Antonio. I think the line is probably right where it should be here. Whoever wins the turnover battle wins the game. Hard to ignore that Brahmas defense. I mean, you combine that with the arm talent that you talk about from Kellen Mond. I'm going Brahmas all the way here, but it is a tricky spot. Again, with 4 road favorites, I think we probably see an upset, if not 2. This would be a candidate for sure. But yeah, again, the Renegades, I mean, I tried it last year, Week 1 with them against Birmingham. They flopped, had a decent first half, but I can't do it. It's hard to bet this team, man. So we're gonna go Brahmas here. Close, very close.
I got a final point about this game.
Yeah. You
kind of talked about it, the sombrero. The Battle of I-35 sombrero. I think it's something great that both of these fan bases have established, kind of like a rivalry trophy in college football, bringing that rivalry field to the UFL. I think it's great for the league, and stuff like that is going to help this league survive and get coaches from college levels wanting to come coach in this league. So hey, both fan bases, you guys are doing a great job with this rivalry. I love it. But I still think the St. Louis DC rivalry has the notch on that.
No question. I mean, it's not even in the same conversation. Argue against a wall, fight me later. I don't care. That's the premier rivalry in the UFL. And our last game, and definitely least, 11 a.m. local kick at the Redneck Yacht Club in Memphis. Panthers a 5.5-point road favorite here against the Boats. 4-for-4 sweep on road favorites. I mean, that's crazy. Again, I think we're getting some upsets. Maybe this could be one of them. Total here is 38, forecast 72 and cloudy. 35 mile an hour wind gusts. And these aren't sailboats. These aren't sailboats, TPG. They're showboats, so that's not going to help them. And they were looking all right until Ken Whisenhunt had to step away. Leaves them without a head coach and a play caller. I will say, this is clearly a serious emergency situation for Coach Whisenhunt. Whether it's personal, family, or maybe a little bit of both, we wish him the best in taking care of whatever it is. I mean, this is a team and an organization that's been through hell. I mean, they lost their teammate, DeAndre Overton, in a September shooting. So we really hope Coach Whisenhunt can get back on the headset soon. For now, O-line coach Jim Turner going to fill in with wide receiver coach TJ Vernieri calling plays. But I do want to start with Michigan. We know Mike Nolan loves to play two quarterbacks, and I want to go to you here. I just don't see how you keep Bryce Perkins on the bench this year.
He was their closer last year, but in my opinion, he should have been starting that whole time. I think when Etling came back, obviously he provided a spark at the beginning because defenses haven't seen him in a couple of weeks, but Perkins is the guy. And if he doesn't get hurt in that playoff game, maybe we're looking at Brahma's Michigan championship because, you know, Michigan had him on the ropes early. They had, what were they up, 18-3 at the half? Yeah, so they really choked that game away. And I think if they had Perkins, it would have really helped him out finish that game. So I'm high on Perkins. Like I said earlier, I think he could be a MVP candidate heading into this season. And it also really helps that you're bringing back a guy like Matt Colburn, great running back in this league. And also you got Nate McCrary, who stepped up big time when Wes Hills went down late in the season. So this is an offense that had 4.8 yards per rush. Pretty freaking good if you're running for over 4 yards a carry. I love that. They bring back guys like Marcus Sims, all UFL receiver, and Sayosi Mariner, who both made some big-time plays in the receiving game. And I just want to give a quick shout-out, Gunnar Oates, former college teammate of one of my buddies. So, hey, come on the show, Gunnar. Why not? Bring him in. On the flip side, though, go ahead, Matt.
I was just going to say, I think it's impressive that Michigan found a way to keep that whole offensive line together for sure.
Definitely. And, you know, they were probably the second best team running the ball other than Birmingham last year. So the fact that they're bringing back the majority of this team, that's why I'm so high on them heading into the preseason. On the flip side, looking at the showboats, not an ideal situation. Like we said, Whisenhunt leaving at the beginning of the week. You only got two offensive coaches. Jim Turner's now your new interim head coach, and TJ Veneri is your new OC, Matt. And this guy is just as young as us. He's a young kid. He's younger than Jaron Horton and AJ Smith, maybe one of the youngest coaches in this league. He got started out as an offensive assistant in the CFL with the Calgary Stampeders in 2021 and served as a running backs coach a couple seasons later. Then he was hired by the Breakers in 2023. He survived that merger. Coach Flip brought him over. And clearly, you know, Whisenhunt saw some talent in him, a young guy, and wanted to keep him around for his coaching staff. Not an ideal situation for this team, but I am excited because you have two young, exciting offensive coordinators, which I think this league needs more of. They need more young, innovative minds. Looking at the defensive side of the ball, Jared Horton is a former Maulers defensive coordinator and got to coach alongside his dad, Ray Horton, who is the head coach of the Maulers in 2023. Ray had a big NFL background, played for the Bengals and the Cowboys for 10 seasons, so obviously Jaron soaked up a lot of knowledge from his dad. And in 2023, the Pittsburgh was able to make it to the championship game despite having the worst offensive in the league. So that goes to show you how good this guy is at what he does and how he can scheme against offenses. Obviously, he's brought back some key pieces from his Maulers defense to this Memphis Showboats defense, guys like Boogie Roberts and this year player on the D-line. And then DBs such as Eli Walker and Mark Gilbert. Mark Gilbert, kind of an up and down year last year for Birmingham, but hopefully, you know, Jaron being a defensive back savant gets Mark right. Matt, what do you think about this matchup?
Yeah, I mean, I touched on the offensive line. I mean, there's some dudes, and some might call this a vanilla offense in Michigan. I think that could change a little bit with Bryce Perkins, right? But also, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you can run for 125 a game and keep wearing teams down, that's a winning formula. Just remember, Panther fans, you're actually going to have to be on your opponent's side of the 50 if you want to kick a field goal this year. With Jake Bates in the big leagues now, you're not going to be hitting 65 plus anymore. So maybe they took that for granted a little bit, that you might actually have to be on the 35 or the 40 to even try one. But yeah, I mean, if you're Memphis, like, where does this offense turn without their play caller? I mean, this is a difficult situation. And I don't really care whether it's EJ Perry, who actually is the former Panther. We mentioned, boy, if EJ Perry suits up, like, Breland Speaks is coming. Like, these guys didn't get to hit him in practice and in camp all of last year. Like, these Michigan pass rushers are going to get after it. EJ Perry, like, they want to hit him for the first time. So I do kind of feel bad for old EJ out there. But, yeah, I mean, last I heard from a Showboat source, Troy Williams was actually a serious contender. Did you know Troy Williams is 30? By the way,
jeez, no, I didn't know.
I had
think
no
he's
idea.
Way
he
younger
was
than that.
Yeah, 7th year pro out of Utah.
Damn.
Like, okay, he's a vet. So, listen, you talk about the defense being a question mark. I feel like the offense in Memphis is the most unknown unit in probably the whole league. Like, brand new tailbacks. You got Prince and Caboti. Did some research on them. They're both G5 level college guys with some P squad stuff. And they're missing their all UFL receiver, right? Dawood Davis, not in camp after suffering an injury. So who knows if or when he'll return. I heard some positive things about Kwame Lassiter in the slot as a new addition, but all in all, TPG, this is 8 or 9 new starters on offense, which it could be addition by subtraction, honestly. They brought at least 3 receivers in from the CFL. Shout out the new GM, right? Jim Monos. He's off and running to rebuild this roster, and they desperately need it. Miserable 2024 campaign under John DeFilippo. So, I don't know, man. As far as Sunday goes, I don't think this will be close. I mean, the last thing you need when you're going against a vaunted Michigan defense is a rookie play caller trying to fill in as an OC with very little time to prepare, by the way. And they have no surefire playmaker to rely on. Like, maybe if they had Davis, I'd be a little more confident, but there's nothing here. Like, the boats might get blanked in this game. Luckily, they have a good kicker in Matt Conklin, but, I mean, look at Colin Bauer's defense, TPG. Breland Speaks, 10 sacks, DPOY, he's back.
A nightmare. Ginda, back from injury.
Frank Ginda. White is back. Dawkins is back. I mean, you can't run the ball. Yeah, you can't run the ball against them. I mean, they lose Nate Brooks at corner, but yeah, like you said, Kai Nakua roaming around back there in the defensive backfield. He's a ball magnet, 3 picks last year. So, listen, Panther fans, no need to panic. Even in the absence of your Lord and Savior, Jake Bates, I think you will still start 1-0 in Memphis. This will be the most lopsided result of the week. I mean, I'm talking 22-3 here. What's the pick from you?
The one edge the Showboats do have in this matchup is when Horton was with the Maulers, he was divisional opponents with the Panthers, a team that he saw twice a year. So he's going to be familiar with what they do offensively. But with that being said, give me the Panthers. But, hey, Matt, we've been going for a while.
Would you feel any differently, though, honestly? Would you feel any differently if this was Wizard Hunt's team?
You know what? I was leaning boats to begin with. But after this news, it's hard for me to get behind this team with all the new faces and the new coaching staff. But before you cut me off, I was going to say, dude, we could cut this part, but that beer I chugged earlier is just not sitting well. I might have to go blow chunks real quick. I'll be right back.
The St. Louis scumbag. Oh, that's a perfect time to go to Best Bets, is it not? Jeez, don't let this guy lose us any money. As always, a week 1 disclaimer for Best Bets. Don't bet your car payment yet. Don't bet your light bill, right? We got to let things simmer down a little bit here in week 1. I mean, last year was a perfect example of this. So I'm only going half a unit on these 3 plays. Although I am a little heavier on Michigan, minus a 3.5. And before you scream at me that this number is now 5.5, that's cool. I'm comfortable with it. I got 3.5. Go ahead, play it anyway at 5.5. I'm not too concerned with any line movement here. In fact, that's probably a good sign that it's moving. So we're also going under 37.5. St. Louis and Houston. Zero idea what to expect from either quarterback in that game. I think you got two solid defenses. And yes, that is DC +7. During the regular season last year, Stallions won 9 games but only covered 4. I think DC keeps it close. And I'm going to add another under in last minute here. Let's go Michigan, Memphis under. I believe I got it at 38.5. Again, 35-mile-an-hour winds forecasted for Memphis with little to no offense or play calling from the boats. I think that's another one. So a 4-pack of plays on our week 1 best bets. Look who's back.
Hey, Matt, I'm ready to do the best bet segment now.
And that is all she wrote tonight. Too late, TPG. Thanks for being here.
Serious?
Make sure you like and subscribe on your way out. From the St. Louis scumbag, TPG, I am Matty Fresh. Remember, nothing is guaranteed in this sport, so be grateful we have another opening weekend. And always remember, there is no such thing as football season. Shields up! We'll see you Sunday night, folks.